Football is back. Football practice is officially underway. I think the day was the fourth practice, actually. Practice on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think they had yesterday off, and then we're back at it again today. After practice, we're scheduled to get Phil Maffa, Keith Adams, Jay Haynes, and Harris Sewell, I do believe. And last I heard, they were still waiting on those guys to get in there. I'll be back up there tomorrow. We get our third and final viewing session on Wednesday. They'll be over at Jervy Meadows. There's another practice tomorrow. We'll get Dabo Sweeney after that one. But having been up there a little bit now, I did come home for the weekend. For those that don't know, it was my birthday over the weekend. I had to come home, celebrate it with the family. I'm now half 100. Yeah, good for me. I had originally planned to just stay up there, for a little while, but I'm gonna head back up tomorrow, and then now I'm gonna stay up there for a little while. But, there's a different feeling in the air, man. I don't know what it is, and it might not mean nothing. It might mean something. It might mean nothing. But there's a different feeling in the air, man. And I paid a lot of attention to the freshmen those first couple of days, but I also, the second day, I made it a point to go over and watch the offensive line some. Those guys respond to Matt Luke, really, and he is such a stickler for the details, man. It's like the focus is on getting the little things right, and if you do the little things right, everything else everything else will fall into place. I think that group's going to be a lot better this year. Are they going to be elite? I'm not saying anything like that, man. But I do think they're going to be a lot better up front. I think if you keep the wide receivers healthy, they're going to be a lot better out wide. And if you're better up front and your receivers are healthy and better, that's going to lead to better quarterback play. For me, the biggest thing is still, you got to get the quarterback play, man, and not a lot to be gleaned from from what we saw those first 2 days. You're not gonna take a whole lot away from that, when you're trying to gauge how big of a step the offense is taking. It's a lot of individual drills and stuff, not a lot of team drills, and definitely no good on good type stuff outside of the field goal kicking. K does look a little different physically. You can tell he's put on a little bit of bulk. He looks stronger, and he needed to be. He needs to be effective in the running game. He doesn't need to run for 1,000 yards or anything like that, but he needs to be a threat to run the ball. And last year, he just wasn't much of one when he ran. Far too often he went down on first contact. Again, it goes back to that strength, and it just looked like he needed to be a little bit stronger. And he does look like he is. He looks like a kid that's kind of growing into that frame. Now, whether that translates to more success on the field, we're not going to know that. And I'm already reading some of the comments over here. There's just, I see one guy's got Clemson losing 5 games this season. Man, that would definitely be a disappointing season. There's going to be a lot riding on that season opener against Georgia. But again, I've said it. I said it last week. I think I said it before that. It's not like this big must-win game. You could lose that game and still accomplish every goal outside of winning the opener. You can still accomplish every goal on the table. You just got to be able to make sure you get better, assuming you lose that game. You got to get better from it, learn from it. And as long as you don't get your doors blown off, if you go in there and get your doors blown off, man, all bets are off. But we'll see, man. There's definitely a different feeling in the air, man. I said it last week. I thought there was some cautious optimism, man, and I stand by that. There's some optimism in the air over there. We'll see. We'll see what it if it means anything. Again, it might not mean anything, man. It might not mean anything. I think the only thing I know for sure about that team is I think their defense is going to be really good. I think DeMonte Capart's primed for a breakout season. When I was leaving on Friday, I could hear Dabo Swinney just giving a high praise to Jaden Lucas. He's a guy that if he's healthy, he's a dog out there, man. You get him and Avion Terrell out there, man. It's two pretty good corners. I think the pass defense is going to be good again. I think they need to improve a little bit against the run. I think they were only 22nd in rush defense last year. You want to be better than that. And I think they will be, man, with guys like DeMonte Capart and Trey Williams and Peyton Page, playing on or leading the way on the interior. I think the run defense is going to be improved. You got to really like what you got a linebacker. There's a lot of things I like on the defensive side of the ball. Again, all the questions are on the offensive side. And, I see one person asked me, does Cade look different? The only thing I can tell you is he looks physically different. We get to watch individual drills, man. It's not like they're sitting there running the offense or anything. And there's not a whole lot to be gleaned from those kind of things. A lot of it is the same drills they run over and over every day. We get, shuffled out of there pretty quickly before the good stuff starts. So there's about the biggest thing you can tell is how guys look physically, man. And another thing that I noticed were pretty much every one of those freshmen looked physically ready to roll, man. I didn't really, not a single one really just jumped out at me that looked like or a freshman that was going to need a year. They all look really good from a physical standpoint, man. Ashton Hampton caught my eye on Friday. So did Corey Gibson. And TJ Moore's a guy who I've raved about for weeks. He definitely looks the part. Even those freshman offensive linemen look the part. I'm not saying you're going to see much of any of them. Maybe Elijah Thurman, but outside of that, I doubt we'll see a whole lot of those guys. But they look the part. None of them really look like guys that absolutely need a year in the weight room to put on all this bulk, man. I thought that was a really good sign too. David Ajamame looks really good from a physical standpoint. I thought Bryant Westco coming in at 182 was good for him, especially knowing that he probably was a little under 170 when he got there. A lot to like about that freshman class. A whole lot to like about that freshman class. Do I have the boat ready? It's out there if need be. Again, I'm leaving tomorrow, man. I tried to get the wife to bring the kids up there with me for the next few days, but she said no. She needs to stay here and go to work. I don't know. And if we get a foot of rain here like they're talking about, I don't know if your work's going to have much. I don't know if you're going to have any power at work to go to work. They might end up jumping in the car and coming up there anyways, but I'll leave the boat here for them. Not that she knows how to work it or anything. FSU a guaranteed loss. DJ is the QB. DJ is and QB he was when he lost his job at Clemson may not be the starter when he played. Yeah, I said that last week. I don't think it's guaranteed that DJ's the starter when Clemson rolls at Tallahassee in October. I, I'm not really buying all this hype coming out of Florida State's camp that you know DJ's this different quarterback than he has been the past 3 years. I think he kind of is what he is. I thought he pretty much looked the same at Oregon State as he did at Clemson, particularly when he played the better teams. I mentioned it last week. Go back and watch Oregon State's games against Washington or Oregon. DJ was not. He wasn't all that great. They got a pretty good freshman. That's a pretty good freshman quarterback there at Florida State who might be ready to step in and fill that void if DJ doesn't live up to expectations. And I'm not saying Georgia Tech's going to beat Florida State in week 1 or week 0 or whatever the heck it is, whenever that game is in Ireland. But it absolutely would not shock me if Georgia Tech won that game. I think they're going to be much improved. And, with DJ as the quarterback and you lose guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson on the outside, you just don't have the playmakers out there that you had last year. I'm not saying you don't have any, but you don't have what you had last year. So no, I don't think Florida State's a guaranteed loss by any stretch. I saw one I was looking for. Now I can't find it. Just want to see competent offense. I think that's about what I think everybody wants to see that, particularly after the last 3 years. I think it was probably as bad as it's been last year, particularly over the first half of the year. And it wasn't just like one thing. There was a lot of things that factored in. Piss poor offensive line play, piss poor quarterback play. Your wide receivers are so banged up that they can barely stay healthy enough to get on the field. And when they're never at practice, there's just not a way for your quarterback to build any kind of continuity with those guys. And I do think Wesco and Moore gives you something that's kind of been lacking the past few years. They give you both those guys are dynamic talents that you can put on the outside, and they can make contested catches. They can go up high, point the ball. They can take the top off defenses. I think Wesco's speed has been widely publicized, but I think Moore's speed has been a little bit understated. He's probably a little bit faster than he gets credit for, but and I think both those guys are going to help. I'm not sure Wesco's a guy that's going to play every down, seeing as he's a little wiry still, but I could absolutely see TJ Moore working his way, into a prominent role sooner rather than later. And then, not just put all the focus on those two guys. I remember, I think I said this last week too, but I remember Tyler Grisham using the word variety a few weeks ago at Clemson's media day when he was describing the room. And I think that's a good word to use. I think there's a lot of variety in there. You got the smaller, twitchier guys like Antonio and Troy Stellato, and you got the bigger body guys, the two freshmen and Adam Randall. It'll be interesting to see where a guy like Cole Turner fits in, because he's probably one of the fastest guys on the team. So, I mean, they got some options. And speaking of a guy that kind of looks different, Antonio Williams kind of looks different, man. Physically, and I don't know, man. He's kind of got that look in his eye, man. He might be primed for a big time season. Yeah, Taj is he's been working with quarterbacks the first 2 days that we were allowed to view. Cole Stout, who has been with the quarterbacks in the past. I forget now. He's with a different position group now. I forget what it was, but yeah, Taj is working with the quarterbacks, and with this new rule, they're allowed to be a lot more hands on in practice. It was good to see Ben Boulware strolling around in the facility last week. You know, Lorenzo Ward, um, Nolan Turner's back. He's helping. Um, there's a lot of guys that are lending a helping hand and you know trying to get their foot in the coaching door, so to speak. But yeah, I think that rule is going to help, man. It might have been you that asked me a few weeks ago how much that rule is going to impact, and I said I wasn't sure yet, but I think that rule is going to help. That rule with the unlimited coaches and stuff is going to help Clemson, man. Just based off the first two practices I've been to. How is Ole Miss luring all these recruits away from us? Ely, oh man, you're going way back with those, but Ole Miss has been very aggressive on the NIL market, and I still maintain 100% that if there were no outsiders that had gotten involved and Alfred and those and his family was free to, or not, I shouldn't say free, but if no outsiders had gotten involved and he if he would have went, he ends up at Clemson. Um, it'll be interesting to see if he's a guy that ends up in the portal a year or two from now. But it's one of those weird ones, man, where you get some outside voices that start driving the conversation, and then play a heavy they play a heavy role in the decision. And I think that's what happened here. Based on I wish I could just tell everything that was told to me back at camp and some of the conversations I had with him and his mom, but I'm not gonna do it. I would have bet almost anything that kid was gonna be at Clemson, and then a week or so before the announcement, before he's set to come in for the All and then Cookout, he's scheduling a trip to Ole Miss, and then after the commitment, you see some of the quotes he put out, which totally contradict everything he and his mom said to me in multiple conversations. It's almost like somebody was feeding the lines. But that's the world. Hey, man, that's the world now, man. It's a whole different world, man. And Ole Miss has got some NIL money to throw around, and that's exactly how they've had so much success in the portal, and it's exactly how they won some of these recruiting battles. Now, I mean, I'm not going back as far as Ely and Kendichi and all that. I'm just talking about right now. There are a few NFL draft experts who, as late as this summer, are calling Capehart an undrafted free agent. To be fair though, they've not seen a lot of him. They're just not. He really didn't start to play a lot until down the stretch last season. Didn't play a lot as the 2 years or the 3 years before that, because this is fifth season now. If I'm remembering that right, but it's not like that there's a ton of film, man. But if you look at the little bit of film from last year and the way he's throwing guys around like ragdolls, that seems a little, not very well thought out takes there. I think Capehart's gonna have a monster year, man. And matter of fact, he got asked the other day. We got to talk to him the other day, and he got flat out asked about why, he decided to stay at Clemson and not transfer. And he made no bones about it, man. It was the coaches. He didn't never name anybody by name, but I'm sure he's talking about Nick Eason. Or maybe he did name him by name. I can't remember, but you assume he's talking about Nick Eason, who has just had such an impact on that room, man. He's just such an upgrade over the guy that was there previous to him and who is now over there in Oklahoma. Yes, Sammy Brown is quick as a hiccup. Back at camp, he was wearing a sleeve. I think it was on his left leg, and he's sporting a brace on that same knee now. Doesn't seem to be hindering him any. I thought he looked like he was walking with a little bit of a limp back at camp, and there had been some rumors, that maybe he tweaked something. It was back around the time of the super regional or the regional that maybe he had tweaked something. But even if that's true, man, he looks really good. That guy's going to be in the rotation, man. He's going to play. I'm not saying he's going to start, but he's going to play. Not the wide receivers we've had in the past, but I think they should be a very good group. What do you think? First and foremost, I think they got to stay healthy. That's the big thing with those guys. They've just not been able to stay healthy. Guys like Adam Randall, Troy Stellato finally was able to stay healthy last year, relatively healthy. He was still beat up and banged up. Ended up having to have shoulder surgery, I think it was. After the season, I think they shut him down halfway through the spring, if I'm remembering right. But that's the biggest thing. If you can keep all those guys healthy, though, I like the makeup of that room now that you've added those two freshmen in there. And this is a big year for Adam Randall, man. It kind of feels like now or never for him. If you don't do it now, you're going to get passed by those younger guys because they absolutely, have all the tools. And those guys aren't redshirting, man. They're not going to sit on the sidelines and watch. They're going to be out on the field. And if you're not producing, they're going to pass you by. And talked about Antonio Williams a minute ago. I think he looks different, after being hurt most of last year. And it'll be interesting to see how some of those younger guys fit in, man. Maybe, guys like Ronan Hannafin and Noble Johnson, who we've just not seen a lot of yet, and Tink Kelly. Wonder if they'll maybe have a package for him. He's a smaller, twitchier guy with some speed. But, there's you got a lot of options, man. And if they can stay healthy and the quarterback can get them the ball, I like the makeup of the wide receiver room. Is it what it was in 2018, 2016? No. But I think you're headed back in the right direction. Was Cade vocal? That would be a good indicator. I thought he was he was vocal, and I thought he was displaying some, better leadership qualities than I saw a year ago in fall camp. Again, it's individual drills, and I don't think there's a whole lot to be taken away from those things. But yeah, he's a lot more vocal now. And I saw some things that I like, from a leadership standpoint. He was like, for example, after they get finished stretching, they all huddle up and talk to Dabo Sweeney. Dabo has a little pep talk with them, and right after that, they all, kind of break for this first drill that they do, and all the offense goes to one side, if I'm remembering right, and all the defense goes to the other end. And both days, Cade was the first one to the other end. He was the first one there, just sprinting down there, man. He seems to be settling into, one of the leadership roles. Here, Randall looks great. Well, looking great's never been Randall's problem. He's always looked for for the most part looked pretty good, man. He was a little heavier than I thought he was going to be. What is he, 231? But they're saying he's only 4% body fat, and seeing him, I believe it. And I will say this: I watched a good bit of the receivers for about a period and a half on Thursday, that first practice, and I thought he looked explosive in some of those drills. Um, Again, they're individual drills. They don't mean anything. They don't mean he's going to be explosive on the field when they start playing real games and get under the lights. But it's what you want to see in practice, I guess. Oh. I haven't heard about any underclassmen with a chance to start. Hoping that's meaning most of these starters are impressing as much as they can. I think you're going to have an underclassman starting at one of the corner spots in Terrell. Wouldn't shock me. I'm telling you, man, it would not shock me at all if TJ Moore's not starting sooner rather than later. I just think he's that talented and he's that ready to roll. But but no, I don't know that there's going to be a ton of freshmen starting this year like we saw a season ago. But a lot of that was due to injury. If Antonio Williams it doesn't get hurt, how much of an opportunity does Tyler Brown get? He's another underclassman that is probably going to play a lot this year. We'll see. I could see him starting in the slot actually. But yeah, I get your point. What you're trying to say there. FSU lost 19 of their 21 starters who were all fifth-year seniors. You saw this year's team in the Orange Bowl add in DJ, a few transfers, and true freshmen will not be nowhere near last year's team. Yeah, I'm not buying the this FSU hype. I was not at the ACC kickoff, but had I been, I would not have voted for them to win the ACC this year. I have a hard time seeing DJ being able to run that offense. After you see Jordan Travis excel in that offense, and then you replace him with a guy like DJ, and I touched on this last week. It's easy to forget he wasn't their top choice. They wanted Cam Ward. They kind of ended up stuck with DJ and ended up having to take him. But again, I could see a scenario to where DJ's lost that job by the time Clemson goes to Tallahassee in October, and that freshman is playing. I'm not predicting that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't outright shock me. Some are reporting Thurman is looking ahead already at this point. Yeah, Thurman looks really good, man. But I thought all of them looked really good from a physical standpoint. But if you watch Thurman for a few minutes, he kind of looks like he belongs, man. He moves real well. He's agile. His feet move real well, or he moves his feet really well. He let's just say he moves really well for a guy that size. We'll see. We've got some work cut out. He's got his work cut out for him if he's going to crack the 2 deep, but maybe he gets opportunity to do just that. $14 inches of rain on top of all the rain from this past week. Yeah, there's water. For those of you that don't know, I live in Florence, and there's water out. I got a big ditch out in front of my house, man, and it's already half full of water as is. Fortunately, I don't have any trees in my yard, but uprooted trees means losing power. Like I said at the top, man, I tried to talk my wife to get her and the kids to come up to Clemson with me this weekend, but she's going to pass and hang out here and wouldn't shop me at all. By Wednesday morning, they was in the car and headed towards the upstate if the roads will allow for it. At least we're not going to get all the wind, or it doesn't look like we're going to get a bunch of wind anyways. But yeah, where I'm at is they're calling for about a foot of rain here. I think between 12 and 13 inches last I saw. No, there are no shades out there. The last pair were wrong. They were for Alfred. Um, and that was I put them out weeks ago based off multiple conversations I had with him and his mom. Let's just put it at that. Let's just leave it at that. Or multiple conversations I'd had with him and one I had with his mom. Like I can't. Someone close to the program told me that Vic Burley is the best defensive line prospect we've had since Big Dex. He said he just needs to get on the field and be available. I followed up with Better than Woods. I don't know. Saying he's the best one since Big Dex, that's saying a lot. I don't know if I'm gonna go quite that far because I just not seen enough, man. He's still in a green jersey. And he weighed in at 330 something pounds. I'm wondering if that's a little heavier than they warrant him. He's a guy that's just, you said it. He's got to be available, and he's not been available his first year. He's had some terrible luck with injuries. But if that guy's healthy and he's ready to go, he's going to be hard to keep off the field. And, that's one of the reasons why you feel comfortable moving Peter Woods outside. Because you got guys like him and Peyton Page and Trey Williams and Capehart. Heck, even Stephon Green if you need to roll him out there for a little bit. Brown energy injury made Brenny Cade go to. Hope he don't fall in love with the deep. Oh, you know what? That's another guy that looks different. I mean, like night and day different. Brenny Stool. He's just put on so much good weight, man. His legs look so much bigger, man. He is real. That body of his is really matured. He just kind of looks like a different guy. Best improvement from weigh-in, any disappointment result? No, I didn't. I thought Peter Woods came in a little heavier than I thought he was going to because back in the spring when they started originally talking about moving him outside, I actually asked Dabo about him maybe needing to shed some weight, and was that the case? And Dabo said, yeah, he's going to have to, shed a few pounds. He never gave a specific number or anything, but he said, yeah, and he comes in 3 pounds heavier than he was last year. Don't know if that was by design or he just wasn't able to shed the weight, or if maybe that means he's not going to play outside quite as much as they had us believe. All questions we won't get the answers to until season starts. But that was one that surprised me. Burley being 330 something surprised me a little bit. It didn't shock me, just surprised me a little bit. But Adam Randall being 231 surprised me a little bit. But again, they're saying he's only and looking at him, I believe it. They say he's only 4% body fat. No, there wasn't really anything that really disappointed me, man. I thought off the top of my head, I thought all the numbers were, I'm trying to think of the word to use here. acceptable, I guess is the word I'm looking for here, man. There's nobody that I can think of off the top of my head. Heck, even Shaheem Lawson's up over 250 now. Zaire Patterson's up over 250 now. Guys that have struggled to put on weight in the past. Maybe there's never been any doubt about Lawson's pass rushing skills, and now that he's big enough and strong enough, maybe you can use him in some pass rushing situations. Surprised Turner wasn't getting punt return reps in the first practice. Yeah, it was. It's kind of the same guys, Antonio and Tyler Brown, if I'm remembering right, and I think Stellato was back there, and they had West Cofield a couple too. He was way down in the rotation, but one of the two he fielded that I saw he muffed. um, but no, I did not see Cole Turner over there. Yes, I remember Antonio Clay. Over under Ben Boulware tackles someone during camp. He was day one. He was just kind of soaking it all in, man. He wasn't very active. He was just watching and learning and um, again taking it all in. Day two, I did see him, doing a little bit of coaching with one. I think it was a walk-on guy, um, giving him some pointers with some technique, and the kid comes back and makes a pick on the next play. So, um, it's people kill Dabo all the time for bringing in these, guys with no experience, and yeah, here he is bringing in Boulware, no experience, and it's no different than any of these other guys, and he's applauded for this one. It's just goes to show you, man, how crazy this sport is. Yeah, I remember Antonio Clay. What about him? Stellato was not in a boot day one or day two. Wood said he would be in different packages down the defense. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. And if you go back and listen to Wes Goodwin, when he spoke at the Clemson Media Day a few weeks ago, it sounds like they're going to give a bunch of different looks, and maybe they're going to place more 3-man fronts than I was originally expecting. But heck, he named, I think it was Trey Williams and Peyton Page, the two guys he also named by name that could move outside at times depending on the opponent or the situation. It sounds like they've got plans to move a lot of guys around, man, and there's several of them guys up front that have the versatility that allows you to do that. Can you check out Antonio Plays YouTube? He's really struggling. The linebacker from there, he seems homeless and is struggling on drugs and has a bunch of tattoos on his face and makes random videos. Oh man, that ain't good. Yeah, I hate to hear that. He's golly, I'm trying to remember. I want to say he wasn't He's not from too far from where I'm at. Let me check that right quick. I might be remembering that wrong. Yeah, never mind. He was from Georgia. For some reason, I was thinking he was from around here, but I hate to hear that, man. That I got some experience in that department, man, with people that get strung out and stuff, man. And that's it's a hard road to hoe. Very impressed with Klubnik's way, and yeah, I thought Klubnik looked stronger, man, and I thought he needed to get stronger over the off season. It's a good step in the right direction. That you hope it translates to him having more success in the running game because Clemson needs him. They don't need him to go out and run the ball a dozen times a game, but he needs to be able to make some plays with his feet. Why don't I buy the FSU hype? Just because of all the losses and who's a quarterback. I just think I think they're going to be pretty good on defense, but I'm going to have to see it to believe it when it comes to that offense and DJ, excelling in it. I just kind of think he is who he is at this point. He left Clemson, putting a lot of the blame on the coaches there and the scheme, and then he goes and plays in a more of a pro style offense at Oregon State. Plays a lot under center and kind of looks like the same guy. And he's going down there, and he's not going to have Keon Coleman or Johnny Wilson, and he's not going to have that running back they had last year. They lost a ton of guys. Somebody said earlier they lost 19 to 21 starters. I don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, man, that's a lot of production to replace, man. I know they did lose a bunch of starters, and to a lot of them, a lot of offensive production from that team last year. So yeah, I'm very anxious to see how DJ performs in that offense and how Norvell kind of tweaks it and tailors it to try to fit some of the things he does well. Again, I think Florida State should be on upset alert or whatever it's called. First game, Georgia Tech over there in Ireland. So I think Georgia Tech's going to be much improved. Much improved. What ended up happening with Alfred and Ole Miss? Yeah, I already talked about this earlier. It's just one of those deals, man, where just too many outside voices got involved and played too much of a prominent factor in the final decision. I 100% maintain that if 3 years ago and there ain't no NIL and there isn't all these, I gotta be careful what I say here, but latchers on, people trying to make money off these kids, just kids at Clemson. You look at some of the quotes he made after his commitment to Ole Miss the other day. They just 100% totally contradict everything he told me in the multiple phone calls I had with him. Totally contradict pretty much everything his mom said to me back at camp. It's just the nature of the beast these days, man. You're never going to convince me that he just can't. He drove all the way. He picked Clemson and drove all the way from Alabama to Clemson back in June just to create a bit, just to Ole Miss's NIL offer. If you're going to use a school to create a bidding war or create some leverage, there are much better options than Clemson, man. Much better options than Clemson, a school that doesn't do bidding wars. It's not a whole lot of leverage to take back to Ole Miss. It's just one of those deals, man, where you got some guys or you got some people on the outside just wielding a little bit too much influence. Williams is the only wide receiver that can take the top off Georgia's defense. Yeah, they might be in for a surprise then, because I think there's a couple other guys that can do that. I think both those freshmen can do it. What all did you see at practice from the whole QB room? Any other opinions? Any other opinions on top of, there's not a whole lot to see, man. I think Cade looks good physically. It looks like Vizina's, earned in there at that second spot right now. I don't know we'll see how much of a competition it is for the backup spot between him and Perriman, but I know you're a big Perriman guy, but I don't foresee any competition for that QB1 spot. If Cade were to lose that job, it'll have to happen during the season, and he'll have to fall off a cliff. He'll have to be really bad. But I mean, we don't see good on good, man. We see a lot of individual drills, and there's just not a whole lot to take from it, to be quite honest. Outside of how guys look physically and how some of the coaching style of some of the coaches and how guys respond to the coaching and how they're doing from leadership standpoint, those kind of things. There's nothing we see that I can tell you, hey man, I saw this. I think the offense is going to be this much better, because what I saw in practice today is just, they don't let us see those kind of things, man, unfortunately. When will we hear more from players and coaches? They are doing that right now. Like I said at the top, today was the running backs: Phil Maffa, Jay Haynes, Keith Adams, and then Harris Sewell thrown in. Tomorrow we get Dabo. We get players every day after practice. Not almost. Let me rephrase that. We get players after most every practice. There's a few thrown in there over fall camp. Like we didn't have any, there was no media availability after Saturday's practice. But so far there's been one after every other practice to this point, and there will be tomorrow. And let's see, I got the schedule right here. There will be tomorrow. There will be Wednesday. Then there will be Friday. Then there is a scrimmage Saturday, the 10th. Then we'll get them again Monday, the 12th, Tuesday, the 13th, Thursday, the 15th, another scrimmage, Monday, the 19th, then Tuesday, the 20th. Who would be your breakout player on both offense and defense? Offense, I'm going TJ Moore, man. I'm letting it ride on the freshman. This offense has sorely lacked, a guy like that. Just a true dog on the outside. And He's physically ready to play every down. Um, I think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field, and I think he's going to have a big year. Defensive, give me Capehart, man. I think he's going to have a monster season. I think he's going to be the anchor in the middle of that defensive front. He's patiently waited his turn, and it's going to pay off for him this year, I think. Would you go cover Clemson in the playoffs if they had to go? Yes. I'm gonna be at every game this year, home and away. Any concerns that the DBs will have the same problems they did against Kentucky? I don't have any worries about the DBs, man. I think they're going to be, good, especially if you can keep Jaden Lucas healthy. Against Kentucky, you had to, you didn't have Nate Wiggins. You had to throw Shelton Lewis into a role. He didn't play a ton last year. And I'll use this as an example. Look what Nate Wiggins did when he got burned up some against Wake Forest a couple years ago. Never really happened to him again. He used that as a opportunity to grow and get better, and I kind of see Shelton Lewis, doing the same thing. And I think Avion Terrell is good enough to shut down one side of the field by himself. And again, I think Lucas is the wild card. If he stays healthy, you've got two lockdown corners there, man. And I ain't even touched on the freshman Corey Gibson, who could easily work himself into the rotation. And I think you got a lot of talent at safety, man. Obviously led by Khalil Barnes. You got Sherrod Coble coming back from injury. You got the Kylon kid who played well when he got some opportunities last year. I'm not worried about the secondary, man. I think the pass defense is gonna be strong again this year. They moved Clemson down to 8.5 wins. Any thoughts? No, not really. It's just a betting line. Optimistic about the offense, but I was last year too. I'm in the prove it mindset this year. I think everybody is. I think everybody wants to see it. That's just kind of where we are. It's been 3 years now. Even in 2020, there was you could see some signs of what was coming. But yeah, I think everybody shares that same opinion, at least for the most part. While I say I think there's some optimism in that building around this offense and what they're going to do this year, I can't fault anybody for sitting back and saying, hey, they got to show me, man. they got to show me before I believe, before I get caught up and believe again. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, man. Again, it's been 3 years, and it's been a little worse each year. You know, there's nothing you've seen on the field outside of that last drive against Kentucky um, that suggests this offense heading in the right direction. It's been a lot of inconsistency. And matter of fact, I think they've kind of been heading in the wrong direction the past 3 years. They got a little worse each of the last 3 years, but um, you know, I do think it's a good sign that everybody's healthy. Man, this is the healthiest they've been in I don't know how long. It's been a while. There was nobody in yellow on Thursday. There was nobody in yellow on Friday. Only two in green. Keith Adams and Vic Burley. So hopefully that worm's turn for them because they have just been besieged by injuries. Couple more here. Do you think Easy might win the backup job? Probably not. I would say no. There's a lot to learn at running back. Wouldn't shock me if he redshirted. Um, I do think he's. I do think he looks really good physically, but there's a lot to learn at running back, man. If you want to win a backup spot behind Maffa, you got to have all the pass protections down. Um, there's just so much that goes into that besides just you know carrying the football. It's a lot to learn, a lot to learn. So no, I'd be surprised if Easy wins the backup job. Hope we have field goal kicker this year with accuracy. Um, the freshman missed a couple on day one. He was 5 for 5 on day two. 5 for 5. I think that, and I think he's been just a little bit better than Gunn. Um, I think right now, I don't know what happened today at practice. Obviously, we weren't there, and I'm not up there. But um, through those first 2 days, it was pretty tight. That's probably going to be a battle that rages on throughout fall camp. Yeah, I would bet almost anything on TJ Moore playing in the first game. I'm not saying he's going to start, but yeah, I think he'll play. Bryce Davis a lot with Clemson. I think Davis and Wofford playing on the edge together would be dynamic. Don't forget Isaiah Campbell. They've kind of taken him as an end too. Even though I could see a scenario where he puts on some weight and moves inside, but he was taken as a defensive end. And yeah, I think just 2 months ago I would have swore he was going to end up at Georgia. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I did not really follow. There were a couple months there where I didn't really follow his recruitment all that closely because I just had him pegged for Georgia. Um, then he discloses publicly that they were kind of looking at him to play, outside linebacker in that 3-4 they like to run. I don't think he was too keen on that. And I actually went up to Greensboro for his commitment. I got to talk to him afterwards. I got to talk to his dad. I got to talk to his coach. And yeah, I think he's after the conversations with those guys. Yeah, I think he's locked in. Any chance we stop running wide receiver games? Seem to go for no gain. No, they're a big part of Garrett Riley's offense, and the reason why they go for no gains or lost yards is because they're not blocked properly. And again, I think that goes not all of it, but I think at least part of it goes back to no continuity at wide receiver. Just so many injuries and not a lot of continuity, and hopefully that's not an issue this year. I'm not sold on Cade. He's not it. Don't think he has it all up top. Go back and watch his high school film. He's got it in there, man. He's got a very high football IQ, man, and he just needs the game to slow down for him. He's got to tap into it. That kid was undefeated in what might be the toughest high school league in the country there in Texas. Don't know if Clemson's all the way out of it for Jordan Young. Let's just say I do know that North Carolina State has made it a point to this is one they wanted to win. They wanted to beat Clemson for one, and they have put a lot of emphasis on winning this one, and they put a lot of let's just say they put a lot of effort into winning it. If you can read between the lines there. All right, man. Appreciate everybody that tuned in today. Right back here next Monday night, 7 p.m. I think so. Anyways, the fall camp schedule might have some impact on what time we start. We might push the start time back once or twice over the next couple of weeks. But if I do, I'll be sure to post it on Twitter. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure you do. There's the handle right there at GP_Priester. Far as I know, though, 7 o'clock, right back here again next Monday. We shall see y'all then.